Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it was called, I think, a Red Rider. Was what we had. You could steer; it was wooden, and it's really hard. And I remember going down the hill, and I steered real quick, and I flipped over, and I was facing up the hill, and another kid in their sled came right and hit me right in the bridge of the nose with the metal sled.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, never forget that.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Is it jacked up, or you can hear me just fine?
Nope, you're
Okay.
still normal. If that's such a
Is
word that
Mr.
could be.
Pickles fixed? Is he fixed?
Yes, he
Is
is.
he fixed?
Pickle,
Is he fixed?
pickle, pickle
Is he
fix.
fixed?
Vic,
Okay.
pickle fix.
See, through the wonders of technology, we can
Mhm.
do all sorts of amazing, miraculous things
On your console.
on your. What is this? An Atari 64 or
It's a
whatever? Atari
console.
2600? A console.
I'm
Okay.
not going to call it a mixer. It's your console.
All right. A mixer. A mixer. That's something. Okay. Anyway, let's
Sound
not do
mixer.
this. Okay. I got your mistakes, Dean. I'm going to throw the mistake out, and because I'm a nice person, because I'm polite and I'm well-mannered, and since this is the Jim and Dean show, as
Mhm.
opposed to the Dean and Jim show, it means I'm in the driver's seat. I should go first. So I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to see if your answer is any good or not, and then I'll come in and save the day. I mean, I want to be polite and let you have first crack, and then
Okay.
if there's anything I need to add, we'll do that. Okay, ready?
On the spot.
Mistake number 1, go too long. Why is that a mistake with your webinar?
Go to where the webinar is too long.
I just said.
Goes too long. Goes
Yeah.
too long. It can be a mistake.
Elaborate. It can
Sure.
be a mistake to go too
You
long.
can-
Elaborate
yes,
on
yes. If
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can be too long, yes, it can. If you are not keeping your audience engaged from the very first moment you go live, 10 minutes can be too long. 5 minutes can be too long. It could be painful. However, you could do a 4-hour webinar and be completely engaged, don't even know the time has gone by. So it all depends on the content. What are you talking about? What are you delivering to your audience? Because go too long can be way too long after the first few minutes.
So, I had a friend of mine tell me one time when I made the comment of, a minute's not really that long. And he said, well, douse yourself with ice water
Yeah.
and go stand in the woods naked in the middle of January in northern Canada in a squat position. And I guarantee that'll be the longest minute of your life. So if it's entertaining and exciting, I think about when the last Funnel Hacking Live, when Tony Robbins spoke, I think Tony Robbins spoke for 6 hours. Dude, the last time I went 6 hours with needing a pee break was when I was asleep. And I just remember looking up and go, dang, that was 6 hours. And it was because everything was so dialed in. And the focus was there. Time became irrelevant or irreverent, whichever way you want to look at it. But you're right. If your content sucks, it's too long in 5 minutes. Okay, mistake number 2. Now, I think you're getting this. You understand. I'm going to give you the mistake and you riff and answer, okay?
Yeah.
I already know the answers because I wrote an article on this.
That you criticize. That's how it...
No, I help. So mistake number 2, kill them with knowledge.
Oh my gosh, 100% agree. Over teaching and over educating will kill. It'll kill attention. You'll put your audience to sleep. You'll overwhelm them, and you'll certainly kill sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I've also heard it referred to as making them climb Mount, kill them with knowledge, which I actually really like that. And I appropriated that. Absolutely. All right. So point is, have a webinar that's on point, on focus, built around a single big overarching objective, and keep everything around that. And it should be something they really, really want or something they really, really want to avoid. All right. Mistake number 3. We did make this mistake on our last webinar. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now. We made this mistake, but it's fixable. Mistake number 3, talk too long without changing screens.
Oh, yeah. But what more needs to be said? If you have the same image up, the people are, you're just going to get glazed donuts in your eyes. You're just going to stare. You're just going to be on this sugar crash. You're going to be wide-eyed and you're not going to hear a thing. You're going to become blind to sound, to sight, to the senses. So it's really important to keep your images, whatever you're showing, congruent with what you're talking about and interesting to see. And to keep them up there for too long is no different than overeducating and overteaching.
Right. And the way I'm looking at it is your audience is nothing better than a bunch of 5-year-olds hopped up on Pixie Sticks and Jolt Cola. If you don't throw something new on the Barney tube about every 3 to 10 seconds, you're going to lose the little rats.
Yeah.
All right. Mistake number 4. Boring, boring, boring.
Mistake number 5. Let's move on.
All right.
Yeah.
Mistake number 5.
So we could elaborate on that. So because a lot of times you go, okay, what you might think is interesting is going to be boring to your audience. So how do you fix that? Put yourself into your audience's shoes. For one, what do you think is going to excite them, keep them engaged, create anticipation, keep those open loops? You want to have language in whatever it is you're doing. There you go, strobe light. That's, yeah, that is, it's not boring, but it's annoying.
Could cause seizures and all that other warning.
That's
stuff.
right. And they had to have that disclaimer in the last, Incredibles movie because of that.
Absolutely. So, it's interesting. You say boring, the content, that's a great accompaniment to what I think is the right answer. And that is, it's not just what you say has got to be interesting, but how you say it has got to be interesting too. That's, you got to have, it's show business, kids. It's not, show knowledge. So I think that's important. You got to get revved up. That's the biggest thing is you got to get excited, because if you ain't excited, they're not going to be excited.
That's right.
All right.
Be passionate about what you're talking about.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Just like we are right now. We are passionate about what we are sharing with the folks, aren't we, Dean? Yes, we are. Thank you. Okay. Mistake number 5, talking at your audience.
Don't do that. Which means automatically, if you're talking at your audience, you want to do this, but you don't want to display that you're doing this. Is saying, if you're talking at your audience, they're a target, and your audience is not a target. It means you're just spitting stuff out at them. Blah, 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 blah. And that's what they're going to hear. Blah, blah. If you're talking at your audience, have a conversation with your audience. It's the only way you're going to get them to lean in to listen. It's the only way you're going to engage them. So you want to, and I think this goes back to your last point of having variation and variety in your intonation, the way you tell a story, the way you talk, the way you raise your voice and lower your voice, the way you pause.
Hey.
You don't have to fill the space. You don't have to continually fill the space.
I like it. I think the big thing to remember on that, talking at your audience, is also create some interaction. And so what that lets them know, I mean, we even jokingly were saying, hey, we're alive. It's like, psh, psh, I'm alive. Ow. And the reason, just to let people know, it really was live, because if you, and there are other things you can do, interacting with people in the chat box and other things like that, to just create a back and forth. Because if they wanted to watch a video, they go to YouTube. They can go to YouTube, and there's 800 million videos to choose from. I think they could find one.
Yeah, that will talk at you.
Exactly. So that's an important thing to understand on that. All right, now mistake number 6. Dean, you're doing an adequate job. I'm impressed. I mean, you're doing a great job. Well done.
I've reached your expectations, haven't I?
You have exceeded my low expectations. I'm excited. All right. Next one is mistake number 6. Don't do your homework. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's on several levels there. One, if it's coming from you, the person who's creating the webinar, if you don't have case studies, if you're not backing up your facts, if you're not backing up your data and all the things that you're teaching, you've missed the boat. When it comes to your audience, you better do your homework knowing who you're speaking to, who your webinar is directed to. Are you talking to the right audience? Otherwise, there's going to be a total disconnect and they're just going to check out, or they're going to go after a few minutes. They're just going to abandon and leave and click, I'm out of here, and close your browser.
Absolutely.
So do your homework.
Yeah. What's up, Faith? Glad you're here. Glad you've caught us live. And yes, we are actually live. The big thing that I agree with everything you just said. And part of the homework, interestingly enough, when video first came out, and you see this, part of your homework is actually doing your homework, so you know what you're talking about. And I remember when video first came out, everybody started doing video, and there were a bunch of people that were selling video products that I had never seen them do a video. And there are a couple people in specific that I'm thinking of that will remain nameless, but they came out with a video course on how to do online video. And if you'd have put a gun to my head, I could have found a video that they had actually done. So when you looked at their course, it was rubbish because they had never done their homework, meaning they had never done what they were talking about. So I think not doing your homework is on several levels, knowing your audience, like you said, knowing what they want, knowing their hot buttons, but then also walking the walk and talking the talk, not just talking the talk, which is pretty easy to do, especially if you hire somebody to research stuff for you off of Fiverr. All right. Mistake number 7. No reason to stick around until the end.
Wow. Your content, or whatever you're talking about, better be interesting enough and compelling enough to give people a huge reason to stick around. And how do you do that? Well, you do it with curiosity. You do it with open loops. You do it by creating lots of teasers. Here's where it's going to come. You whet their appetites, knowing that you're going to give them the solution to the problem, which is the reason they're on your webinar in the first place. So the mistake that a lot of, and I saw this in a webinar recently that I was looking at, where the solution to the problem was like right up at the top of the webinar. So there's no reason to stick around at all, because you're giving everything. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to do that on a webinar. Give them the what, not the how. You sell them the how. You tell them the what. You help them with the what. But you save the how for the end. That gives them the reason to stick around.
Yeah. I think and that's good. That's a good answer. One of the things that I like to do, and of course it works great, so I didn't do it on my last 2 webinars, but is to tell people, when you show up live, you're going to get this. This is a secret I'm going to drop on you. Only for people who show up live. And another way that you can increase sales is to have a special offer. Oh, wow, look, I'm offering Bitcoin. Look at this, Dean, in the comments. I'm offering 220 Bitcoin to share with Bitcoin orders before we delete this post. Look at me. I am a hell of a guy. And I bet if you click that link, you're going to get a virus. So I would suggest you don't do it. But yeah, this is valid until we remove it. What kind of asshat does that? I mean, it's just somebody that is breeding with their cousin or something. I mean, this is why cousins should not intermarry. People that do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Well, whatever. All right.
I remember this Dennis Miller joke he used to do way back. This was in the 80s. He goes, I did a show in Alabama, and I met guys who were their own fathers.
That takes talent. All right. So, what was I talking about? That mistake was, another thing I'll do, and I really got to start doing this again, is one of the things that we've done that's worked really well is to tell people, look, I'm going to be making an offer on the webinar. Everybody who's here live, I'm going to make you the offer, but I'm also going to give you a special discount that's only going to be available live, and it will not be available on the replay. You have to be here live in order to get the special coupon code. And literally, they got a coupon code. And one of the things I would do, and this is dropping a really nice little tip here for y'all, I would have in the PowerPoint slide deck a thing that said, cut from replay. And so they would see my note to say, cut this from the replay. I would give them the thing and say, okay, now I'm going to be turning the replay back on. So there you go. I mean, that works gangbusters. That's where you start getting up around 40, 45%. I've had as high as a 50% conversion rate on a webinar doing that.
That's great.
So
we have to do that.
That works. Yeah, that works really well.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so Teen's like, hey, that's a writer downer. So, okay, mistake number 8. And then, oh, look, I'm back. I just keep making that Bitcoin offer, dude.
It is so good.
It is so good that, I mean, I just can't help myself. I keep making that Bitcoin offer over and over. Okay, mistake number 8, Dean. All right. Let the fish off the hook with a replay.
Well, if you tip the hat already, and while you're promoting your live webinar, and at the same time, you're telling folks, oh, if you can't make it, that's okay, because we're going to have a replay. You have just taken all the air out of the balloon.
Whatever kind of privates you have just slammed them in a door. All right. You just define that for yourself. I'm not here to judge. All I'm doing is telling you that's why you're in financial pain. Do not tell people, when people ask, will there be a replay? There may well be a replay, but I'm not 100% sure. Why am I not 100% sure? Because in the hundreds, if not thousands of online presentations, interviews, webinars, sales presentations, demonstrations, podcasts, and other stuff, there have been three times, knock on wood, that the recording screwed up and there could not be a replay. Therefore, I cannot 100% guarantee that there will be a replay. So if you want to make sure that you get this amazing information that we're going to be revealing to you, that's going to teach you this, 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 and this, so you can do this, you need to make sure that you show up live. In fact, you need to make that investment in yourself so as to be able to get that result.
And that's a great point, because sometimes we just have no control over the technology, especially if it's cloud-based, right? You have no idea, because you could do a fantastic webinar, a fantastic podcast, a fantastic interview, a YouTube, whatever video and the tech goes down and you're going, oh crap. You can't 100% guarantee or promise that there will be a replay, just like Jim said.
Just can't do it. Can't promise. So just make sure you're there live.
Oh my God, sound can be out. It can get crackly on the replay going, what happened? Yeah,
your pickle could lose its voice.
Yeah.
Your pickle could go limp. You don't know. You just don't even know. Your unicorn could lose its horn. You like what I did there? It was rhyming. I'm right on time with that rhyme.
Man, we got a veritable Dr. Seuss in the house.
Faye says, true that. Zoom is known for dropping audio and recordings. It is. It has happened more times than you really want to think about, and they sure don't tell you about it. Well, Dean, that's the end of the list. That is the end. Do you have any? Oh, wait, he's like, turn about his fair play. No, it's not. We're almost to the end of the show.
No, when you started off, because I didn't know what we were going to talk about until I showed up. And when you said, hey, we're going to go over some mistakes about the webinar, and the first thing that came to my head was, over-educating, over-teaching. But I was totally surprised by all those other mistakes. That is incredibly insightful. That's a great list to have. And it's a great list to have as an opt-in, as a lead magnet.
Excuse me. Well, that's going to be my article. Not this. I already wrote the article, but that's going to be my article tomorrow. Want to hear the hook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you making these big mistakes when your webinars? Is that the hook?
Quiet, Dean. I'm giving homage to one of the classics, you smart ass.
Okay. John Caples.
Do you make these mistakes with webinars? Don't even. That's a great headline.
It is.
There's
a great headline. It's a timeless classic.
And then there's got a sub headline, a second half, and kill your sales in the process.
See, Caples didn't know the ... without, get this, without, or plus Absolutely. You're going to do this, right? So we've come a long way.
All day long.
Caples.
All day long. So I thought I was proud of myself. All right. I think our work here is done.
Yeah. And I think, how do you feel about those who teach a no pitch webinar? It leads to a call. Faith asked that question. That's great. It's what is the call to action for your webinar? So if it's going to lead to a call, same rules apply, Faith. If you overteach, if you overeducate, if you overthrow so much information and data at them where you're talking at them, you're going to have the same problem. People are going to start clicking and hanging up and abandoning the webinar. So it doesn't matter. Whatever your call to action is, that is the offer.
But it's not a no pitch event. If you want to get them on a call, you got to pitch them on getting on the call. It's not true. It's got to be a pitch. You got to pitch people to get on the call same way. Well, maybe not the same way.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same fashion, but you have to entice them to fill out the application to get on a call.
Right. And even if you're like, and you see this a lot with companies where they just want to get on and educate and teach, still, if that's all you want to do is just do that, well, your stuff better follow the same kind of framework to keep whatever you're talking about interesting, engaging, exciting. Anything.
But, and it's a big but.
You're still pitching.
And the more you teach them how to do, the less they need to buy from you.
Right. Well, I was just talking about a straight, because corporations do this. Come on here and we're going to teach you how to do
Corporations suck.
This.
I know. They come on there and teach you how to do this. And it's like, reach out to our customer service department or, marketing's here to tell you a little bit about our offering and our CRO software. Yeah. And they make about as many sales as I don't know. Anyway. Point is, you teach them too much on that webinar, they got no reason to go to the next step. What to, why to, inspirational, aspirational. Don't teach them how to do nothing except buy. Only how-to steps you get from me is how to get on the phone.
Wojtek says, I would like to share one of the highlights from Fill My Webinar.
You can reach out to us and see what's what.
Sure. But then he says, Dean was talking about how important it is to find out where an audience hangs out. It sounded really unique in line with the funeral home campaign. I still cannot stop thinking about that.
I hope it's good examples every once in a while.
Once in a blue moon, something will creep in. If I keep talking,
squirrel gets a nut. Even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. Unless it's a digital, then it just blinks 12. Of course, that's right. That's right. Still right twice a day. It's just blinking right.
Yeah. Oh, Faith has something. Faith says, I am so bad for teaching. I need to stop that silliness. So a way to do that is, how can I translate what I'm teaching into a story? From a client, yourself, a story, something that you went through. If you tell stories, keep those stories engaging, but that's a great way to do it.
Yep, that's great advice. The other thing is to say, okay, when I'm conveying this information, am I wearing my teacher hat or my marketer hat? And if you're on a sales webinar, you need to be wearing your marketer hat about 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And so talk about beliefs, talk about why people should be doing this, give case studies about people who've gotten great results.
Before and after.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Because you ain't going to teach them enough to change their life in 60 minutes anyway. I mean, you could teach them some stuff, but they'll forget about it a day later, 2 days later. They'll remember if you had a booger hanging out of your nose or if you were funny or something like that. But 2 days later, they're not going to remember what you taught them. The only way anybody gets a result is to make a commitment of time, energy, and money by investing in your course. That's how you can help people the most, is to inspire them to do what it takes to take things to the next level.
So step back and ask yourself, why are people showing up to my webinar? Well, it's because they're at a place, no matter what the product or what the service or where they are, they're at a place where they don't want to be. It's your job to take them to the promised land, to where they want to be. And the only way to do it is not by telling them information. You have to relay and tell stories, give examples that allow them to come to the conclusion, oh, I see. This is why I have to do this, or this is why this is good to do. They're on it. Jim has shown you this brilliantly in the hero's journey. They need to take a journey from where they are now and who they are now to who they want to be and where they want to be. It's that simple. Is it easy? No. But it gets easier the more you do it. So think in terms of stories. How do I take them from the point A to point B, from where they are to where they want to be? Every step of the way of the webinar. And each one of those points of where they are to where they want to be, consider that everything in between is a chasm. It's an objection. It's a roadblock. So how do I get them from here, get them across the bridge, the Epiphany Bridge, to where they want to be?
Yep. And one of the things that this just popped into my head. I'm going to try this out. Okay. So if I walked out on the webinar and I said to you, okay, write down 8 times 8. What's 8 times 8? Now I want you to write down what's the capital of Switzerland. Now I want you to list off 5 state capitals. And you're like, you just started the webinar. Why am I doing this? What's the point? That's exactly what you're doing when you just start vomiting how-to stuff on people. The first thing somebody wants to know is why. What are we learning and why are we learning it? Why is it important? Who is this important for? Why should I do this? And nobody is capable of understanding the how-to until they first understand what's the objective, what is the thing I'm trying to do, why does anybody want this? Why is this relevant to me? Why is this something that I'm interested in? Now that I understand the what and the why should I care? Next thing is, okay, this sounds good, but can I do this? I mean, before we get into all this stuff and you start telling me what to do, can I even do it? And you know what? This is pretty complicated. Has this worked for anybody else? Because I mean, before I'm busy. So before I start getting into all this nitty gritty and doing all this stuff, has this worked for other people? Because I'm pretty clear on what I want, why I want it. Yeah, I believe, okay, this makes sense for me, but I got to have some faith that I can do this. And faith spelled exactly like faith. Okay. Now I'm ready for the how-to. And by that time, you've gone through the webinar. If the webinar is basically, what do you want? Why do you want it? Believe you can have it, and faith that you can get it. Now it's like, okay, I'm ready. I want to make the commitment. Okay, well, here's the opportunity for you to really get this done.
Right.
And so that is a process of the hero's journey. And you do that by breaking beliefs, and you do that with stories, and you do that with all these other mechanisms. But everybody wants to jump in and start teaching the how-to in order to prove how smart they are and make people love them. But all the how-to does is make people hate you because they came here for some entertainment and the easy button. And you're in here, you're like the teacher giving homework. Think about in high school, think about the teacher that seriously, Dean, think about, and everybody who's watching, put in the comments the name of your favorite teacher in high school. Now, unless this is going to give people a clue to your password or something like that, okay? Not your mom's maiden name. But Dean, who was your favorite teacher from high school?
Oh God, it was my Mr. Lawler. He was my history teacher. He had long red hair, and he was a rock and roll guy, and he taught like a rock and roll star. He taught American history. Loved it.
You know what's scary as crap? My favorite teacher was Mrs. Ina Altman. She was my 11th grade American history teacher. She was my favorite teacher.
Yeah.
She told really cool stories and didn't take any crap off the kids I hated in high school. So I loved her. Mm-hmm. And she was the reason I majored in history in college. And so I remember her.
Did you ever tell her that?
The person.
Did you ever tell her that?
Never could find her.
That would warm her.
My point is that you don't remember the book they made you read. You don't remember the individual lessons that they taught you. You remember how they made you feel. And you probably remember if they were always good for a story or a joke or just, they made you feel important. And that made you want to do what they said to do. We all have to do that on our webinars before we start slathering away on, here's what to do. People can go to YouTube and pretty much discover how to do anything that you're going to teach them, whether it's, organizing their bathroom or changing a tire or fixing the AC in their car. You can find a video on that. What people are really looking for is a trusted leader, someone to look up to, and someone that can be a mentor and to help them, that they have faith is actually going to help them create the results they want in their life. Not someone who's just going to give them more homework. Because I remember the teacher that gave homework and would literally see you in the hallway and be like, hey, you guys got your project done? It's like, dude, that's not due for a couple of weeks. Leave me alone. I got to go home and play Atari. What are you even talking about? Jerk. And that's what you are if you're the one that just shows up with all the how-to stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Dial it back. Whatever you think is teaching too much, cut half of it out.
Exactly.
And then cut half of it out again.
Right. And substitute a freaking story, because that's all anybody wants to hear anyway.
Yeah.
Is a cool story.
The stories are what's going to change. That's why we all love going to the movies. And then you could start talking about the movies and look at the movies that last. You're not only entertained, but they have a message to them. The message isn't, and it is very intentional. Any Avengers movie, any Star Wars movie.
I was just going to ask.
Lord of the Rings.
This last weekend
Potter.
we watched Avengers, or not Avengers. We watched Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one and the second one again this weekend. This past weekend. I love those movies, man.
Oh man.
Star-Lord. Finally.
Oh my neck.
This is Star-Lord. Finally. All right, we got to go. Y'all take care.
I'm Groot. Oh, it's the Giving Tree.
I am Groot. All right. I'll talk to you guys. Everybody take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.